we have another episode here on the couch. How exciting is that? And those of you that are listening, if you want to see what we look like, you can catch us on YouTube now at the Motivational Mentor
Yay.
channel. So tonight I have my beautiful friend Natalie, who has stopped by to talk with us. And we're going to just jump in and kind of just have a conversation. I'm trying to keep this podcast super authentic and just like, conversations on the couch. So, welcome, Natalie.
Well, thank you, Heather. It's awesome to be here on the couch because it's comfy, comfy.
Comfy cat.
And I look forward to just, chatting and seeing, what comes out of our conversation.
Yeah. Well, tell us about you. Who is Natalie and
Okay,
what does she do?
so who's Natalie? My name is Natalie Harris, and I am in the Kansas City area. I'm actually a contractor, trainer, facilitator, so I have my own business. I generally stay in the realm of communication. So anything that has to do with communications, I basically customize my programs for individuals and companies. I have 10 grandkids, which are the joy of my life, yes, and three kiddos, uh, two boys and one girl, 43. He'll be 41 in January, the other one, and Dana is 25. So, so yes, they keep me very, very busy. I'm a Kansas native, grew up in Lawrence, Kansas,
All right.
spent about 20 years in Olathe, and then 7 years ish um, in Lewisburg, so way south.
Awesome.
And then took a change of life, and now I'm way up north, total opposite end. So I've been there for about 5 years, and just experiencing life and seeing where God takes me. I am a pickleballer, love to play pickleball, love to make kombucha. So I have been making my
Oh, we're going
own
to talk about that.
kombucha for 10 plus years. So love to experiment with that. Make it for friends, make it for family, anything that has to do with health. I generally like to be
Yeah.
in that realm. I make homemade bone broth for, friends that are sick, especially those that have cancer. I've made a lot of bone broth for, people just to help them build up their nutrients
Mm-hmm.
that they're getting. So, yeah.
Well, that is exciting because I've thought about doing both of those, and it's like I don't know how to even start. So
Well, it's
I just
easy.
buy mine.
No, please don't. Please don't. It's very easy. It's simple. I show you one time, and yeah, then you'll get it down.
Awesome. I am all
Hey,
down for that.
maybe we could do a live doing kombucha.
Ooh, that might be
Yeah,
fun. We could
yeah,
motivate people to be
yes,
healthier.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So what's important to Natalie outside of your what you do?
What's important to me is serving. I'm very service oriented. My parents are the perfect example of servant leaders. And through them, they taught us growing up that serving each other, serving your community, serving, people in need, especially, is very important. And that's what God wants us to do. So I am, very service minded in everything that I do. So I love to go on mission trips. The last mission trip I went on was in Mexico, Roca Blanca, Mexico. And then I've served on several boards as well in the community. So anywhere that I can help, I feel, that's very important to just have a heart for people.
Yes.
Yep, that's me. I just love to serve people.
Well, we're definitely gonna have to have some conversations because that's my goal for 2025 is to be putting myself in more of a service atmosphere, getting more involved in giving back.
Hmm.
So we'll have to chat about that
Yeah,
too. So,
yeah.
so I know a little bit about your story. I know a little bit about. I think the first time we actually met was several years ago.
Hmm.
My daughter and your daughter ended up on the same group going
Yeah.
to prom or homecoming. I don't remember. I think
Hmm.
it was prom.
Uh-huh.
And then I reconnected with you. I think at a coffee shop. I ran into you with my friend Ember,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
and
I remember that.
sweet teas and like that. My
Yes.
favorite
Awesome
thing.
place to go.
They have the best gluten-free vegan uh, giant chocolate muffin. But anyway, and so we keep kind of reconnecting different ways and running into each other. So I thought we should probably sit down and have a conversation. But
Mm-hmm.
um, something that we were talking about before we went live, and it's something that's been kind of a pattern over the last couple of episodes. So I kind of want you to touch on it because I know that I've gotten some messages from the last episodes talking about, last month was domestic violence month, and I went live and told a little bit of my story, and then
Mm-hmm.
there was another girl who told her story, and I was amazed at how many people made comments about having to get out of that situation, and not necessarily domestic violence, but just a toxic relationship in general.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say that it doesn't necessarily have to be abusive. Um, what would you tell somebody if they sat down and said, give me advice on what to do? What's the first step? How do you get from point A to point B,
Mm-hmm.
becoming, um, going from being maybe in a marriage or a relationship to being by yourself?
Mm, that's a really good question, and I love the fact that you asked, who's Natalie? Tell me who Natalie is. And so, since you asked this question, how would I go from point A to point B? I will answer that question and then this question as well. It took me a while to find out who Natalie was. Going from a relationship that was 35 years, a long time, to then being by myself. And I'd never been by myself ever before. So I had my son when the youngest son, I had him when I was in high school. So, you go from family,
Mm-hmm.
child, and college, and so on and so forth. And then instantly relationship
Yeah.
there, not ever being by yourself before. So it took a while to really figure out who Natalie was. So what I would tell someone first is, if you're in that type of relationship, listen to the signs, first of all.
Amen.
Someone tells you who they are behind closed doors, believe them.
The first time.
Believe them, you know, not all aspects. And this is where we tend to rationalize things, because not everything is bad.
Right.
There are some beautiful things probably about your relationship. There were about mine, but at the same time, it was good until it wasn't. And, one of the things my mother would say, and she always says this, you never know what goes on behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what you see, and there's this old saying that I want you all to just, I hope it resonates with someone. It basically, this quote, it says, if what you see is all you see, then you do not see all that there is to be seen.
Mm.
So sit with that,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of truth to that, quote. So listen to the signs, get help, and especially if you're in a marriage. I'm a big proponent of marriage. Absolutely 100%. My parents have been married for almost 60 years. So, big proponent of marriage. Get help, get counseling for yourself, but then also your partner should be getting therapy as well. There's nothing wrong with it. And if there is a divide in that, that's another sign not to ignore, because the right therapist, and not all therapists are right. You have to find the one
Yeah.
that's right for you, for the both of you. And just because one doesn't work out, please don't stop looking. Please don't stop searching. Therapy is very important to get that guidance, but then also finding a community of people. You know, um, my family, my parents were, very supportive. I didn't tell my family a whole lot of the details, because I felt like what goes on What went on between myself and my ex is between us. There is no need to draw other people into something they can't do anything about, nor is it really their business, because I did not want that separation of people choosing sides,
Mm-hmm.
right? So recognize the signs, get help, but take time to meditate, to pray, to make sure the direction that you're being led in. And when you feel you're being led, listen,
Mm-hmm.
listen. For me, in my 35-year journey, three times I ignored, three times I left, and I went back. The
You learn
fourth
quick.
time, no, right? It took a little while. This is not
Mine,
fourth time's a charm, or not
mine's
third time's
usually
a
8,
charm.
9, 10, 11, 12 times. Then I figure it out.
This is not third time's a charm. This was the fourth time,
Right.
and the fourth time, I stayed gone. But it was, I felt like I was living in hell. It was
Mm,
the worst thing, even though it was a good thing. It was still the worst thing.
yeah. I talked about on my episode how it's the highest of highs, but the lowest of lows. There's no in between.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There is no in between. And then
Mm-mm.
COVID hit. So you
Mm.
talk about being in a new area. COVID hits. No friends up there. No,
Mm.
no real contact with people. So it's a journey. It really is. But you really have to um, take time to, like I said, meditate and pray and make attempts to discover, you know, who you are in Christ, not
Mm.
who you are that you want to be, because no matter how long you were in a relationship, whether it was, married or not married, no matter how long that is, there are still um, chains that will bind you to
Yeah.
that relationship. There are still, you will still experience uh, backlash
Mm-hmm.
from any toxic uh, behaviors or any toxicity that was in that environment. So it's not just the relationship, but that relationship can cause a toxic environment.
Mm-hmm. The trauma bond.
Yep.
It's, I always joke on here, and I'm not really joking, but trauma bond is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've had a passive trauma, that trauma bond attaches a lot faster. It's comfortable there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to break that, which
Yeah.
is why people, I have people, I don't know why women, they go back. There's a trauma bond.
Yes. Yep.
Do some research on it. It is something that it's true.
Mm-hmm.
You're connected to the cycle, because
Yep.
after the bad part is the really, really good part.
Yep.
And so you have, 4, 5, 6 days, weeks, whatever. I don't know, what everyone's cycle is different, of the super high highs. And then you have that really low low, but the next day
Uh-huh.
you're back to that really high high. And that's the trauma bond that gets people stuck.
The one thing that you can, if God is moving you in a different direction, He will begin to reveal things to
Hmm.
you. And I even ignored those
Me
signs.
too.
It was, I knew the cycle. And
Yep, me
I
too.
swear, talk about men being on a cycle. As
Hmm.
well as women, I could pinpoint it. It's like, okay, after, it's been 3 months, something's going to happen. Not that I wanted it to happen, but it's like, okay. But then I would pray, okay, Lord, take this anticipation away from me, because I don't want to call this into
Right.
existence. I don't want my behavior to
Hmm.
impact this
Yeah.
at all. But what I also found is that as you listen to how you're being led, you will develop a sense of peace in knowing. And for those of you out there that are in relationships and you stay just because of the kids, or you stay through trauma and you know you're being led out of, that relationship, or you stay because it's financially
Hmm. That's a lot.
smart for you, which it's not. Never, ever sell your soul to be in a relationship that damages your soul,
Mm.
because that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
For those people that know me, my life was beyond comfortable, beyond comfortable, but it wasn't worth my life, because there were multiple times that I was suicidal throughout that. I could not handle it. There was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of, especially when the kids aren't around, you don't
Hmm.
have anyone to pour yourself,
Right.
into. And so there's a lot of confusion that goes on with certain personality types that can create that confusion. And when you love someone, that love does not go away.
No.
That love doesn't go away. It doesn't go away when you get divorced. I
No.
mean, so there is a lot to be said about finding your identity in Christ
Hmm.
and asking Him on a daily basis, multiple times a day, to reveal to you who you are in Him, and to help you to move in that direction. Release those lies that we embrace those lies. And so my process was, one, to pray, um, two, to uh, not believe the lies. And I still challenge myself, because I had to ask myself often, are you doing this because Natalie wants to do this and you're being led? Are you doing this because this is a learned behavior?
Mm. That
And then the
that's a
last
light bulb
thing,
right there.
right, that I
That's a
had to
teachable
do,
moment.
right, was forgive. Forgiveness is huge,
That's hard.
right? It is hard,
Do
but
you find you have a harder time forgiving yourself than you do other people?
I do. I do. I actually, so my divorce was final in 2020, and we were separated uh, the fourth time for a year before that happened. Um, and I found myself, even, you know, almost to this day, unknowingly shaming myself for divorce. As sometimes this also happens, like in churches,
Hmm.
right? You walk around with, you feel as though you have a target on your back,
Yeah.
or that people place shame on you for the things that have happened. But I do find that it's hard to forgive yourself, even when you have asked God to help you forgive yourself, because He's already forgiven you.
Right.
And that's hard for us to grasp, the fact that God can forgive us and really let go
Hmm.
of it and accept it.
And then even when he, like, I would ask him, I like he was showing me and telling me
Hmm.
that I was not where I belonged, and I would say, Lord, if this is not for me, shut the door, and he would shut the door, but I would go back and open
He
it.
would open it.
And no matter how many times I did that, in fact, my friend Chris, that was, we talked about this last time about how I just kept going back and opening the door. But to me, what it's hard to wrap my mind around was that no matter how many times I went back and opened that door, that when it was all said and done, and I finally walked away 32 days ago, God was still there waiting with his arms
Yep.
open,
Hmm.
welcoming me. There was no like, what were you doing? I told you, girl, what do you didn't listen? Like there was none of that. It was just an instant of I sat down and I opened my Bible and I just immediately felt like, okay, it's
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
There should be no shame. I should, because I was like, I'm so stupid. Why do
Right.
none of that. And
We do
he,
it to
basically
ourselves.
said that, like, no, you can't, don't talk to my child like that.
Hmm.
And so it's such a great feeling to know that that's there and that's available, but I still struggle with, like, you can do me so wrong and I'm like, okay, I forgive you, it's fine. But then for myself,
Hmm.
it's like, how did you do that again? How did you, all of that?
Hmm. It is hard to forgive yourself, and I relate that to someone giving you a precious gift
Hmm.
and you hand it right back to them.
No thanks.
No, thank you. No, I don't want it. It's not for me. I'm not deserving of this gift.
Oh yeah,
Take it back.
that part.
And right, but he gives it to us freely, and it's up to us to accept the gift that he gives us every single day,
I
to
love that.
walk in his spirit, to delight in him every single day, you know, and to know that, he's got you. We can make all kinds of mistakes,
Yeah.
but he's still got you. All you have to do is ask and receive what he's, given
Yep.
you.
It's just that simple.
Yep.
So I hear a lot of women say, and I know a lot of women that have, one of the struggles they have of why they don't leave or why they go back to back to back relationships. And this was me up until 2019. And then I had just become single and COVID hit.
Hmm.
And my oldest was already out of the house at school. My youngest was spending a lot of time with her dad. I'm not sure if she had moved out yet or not, but I was home alone for the first time in my life,
Mm. Yeah.
24/7. And so I had to become comfortable with being alone, which I needed. And I remember, there's just so many people that I think they're not comfortable being alone, so they just stay, or they're scared to be alone, or what does that look like? So how did you become comfortable? Because now, for me, I'm not gonna say when I'm single I don't get lonely. I don't feel like I'm lonely, but you miss that person, having your person or whatever.
Hmm.
But I am very comfortable and very content alone.
Hmm.
How did you get to, I think you are too,
Hmm.
just from what I know about you. How do you get to that point?
Ooh, I'm very much a people person, and
Mhm.
because I've been with people for all of my life, pretty much. So it was hard. I felt like I was being punished for doing what I thought was the right thing, and I was in my head. So you play these tapes in your head over and over and over again, and before too long they become real. So you
Mhm.
close yourself off because of the shame you place on yourself, right? So being able to unpack that and sit with it and realize that, okay, these are these thoughts, they're not healthy. Being by yourself can actually be a gift in itself, because in that time that you are removed, God can be doing amazing things until he puts you out there.
Yeah.
And so being comfortable, it took a while. I mean, it took years. There's sometimes I'm still not comfortable. I still, think to myself, I'd love to go out somewhere, but you know, if I don't, I don't. You
Yeah.
do what's comfortable and that's stay home.
Well, and that's what I was saying before we were recording, that, for the first time I made myself go to dinner. Well, I started with breakfast because I thought there'd be less people out.
Hmm.
So I went and had breakfast by myself, and I was texting my friend. I'm like, so I'm having breakfast by myself. What am I supposed to do? Like, and then I'm looking around, and there's other people there by themselves, but they're all on their phone or they're reading. And I'm like, okay, so you need to bring something to entertain you or whatever.
Hmm.
And so then it was like, okay, so I've done breakfast. Let me do dinner.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of eating alone at all. I mean, at home I don't care, but like
Uh-huh.
out and about, not my thing yet. I mean, everyone says it gets easier, but
Mm.
and then I was telling you I went out of town last weekend, and my friend was supposed to go with me, and then they ended up not going, and so we were supposed to go to Transformation Church in Tulsa, and I got it that morning. I was like, oh, it's a big church. It's a lot of people. I'm not ready to do that alone.
Uh-huh.
Traveling alone is not a big thing. Like getting there by myself was not a big thing. It was no
Hmm.
big deal. But it's funny how there's just some things that I can do by myself. It's not a struggle at all. But
Uh-huh.
then there's other things where it's like, for For example, going to the Nelson Atkins is on my list. I'm like, but I don't want to do that by myself.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems weird. Like, who do you talk about the art with? And my friend said, you don't. You go and you take it in by yourself and you just learn to be alone. I'm like you, I'm a people person. I love people. I
Right.
feed off the energy. So I don't know that I'll ever master being alone.
Mm-hmm.
But being at home for an entire weekend and just doing self care and
Yeah.
spending time with myself, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I kind of refuel. And I used to say at least one weekend a month I would do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm going to stick with that. When I got in a relationship, that kind of went away. But just having that one weekend a month to reboot.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And you're the almost a little opposite for me because I took myself to dinner for the first time in Cabo.
Mm,
It was amazing. Just talk to the people around a little bit, but
yeah.
the food was amazing. And it was just nice to get dressed up, to go out and just treat myself to a really nice meal and
Yeah.
say, you know what? You are you are worthy, you know. You can love and appreciate yourself. You don't need someone else to do that
Hmm.
for you. So, that was great, but I will go travel. So because I travel a lot for,
You do.
work.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable talking to people on planes. I'm comfortable going out and finding things to do. But it's when I get back here to Kansas City that it's I don't know what happens.
That's interesting. And when I was single for almost 4.5 years, and it's funny because I was always out and about. I was always
Mhm.
going, but I just always would call somebody and say, "Hey, let's go do this," or let's like. I just never thought of just going and doing something by myself.
Mhm. Well, I guess we need to go do something
Yes, and
together.
that's what we're talking about is getting all these. All the single ladies are going to be
Yeah,
out and about. So
yeah,
watch out, Kansas City.
yeah. There, it's could be a little wild,
You
which is
know,
a good thing. Which is a good thing. So those of you all listening, just
yeah,
know that there is life after whatever you're experiencing now. But trust yourself. Trust where you feel you're being led, and just know that you can do it. With God's help, you can do anything. God restores. He restores life to you. He restores your finances, to you. So just believe. Just believe. And you might not be able to see it now, but he's a good God.
well, and I think that it's hard for people sometimes to look through the pain,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if you haven't, like, I've been through a couple breakups in the last 2 years, so I know that I'm going to be fine on the other end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is the first time, like you've been married 30 some years, and for the first time in your life you're on your own, I just want to encourage you that you do come out on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and life goes back to being great. And you, generally for me anyway, I come out stronger and smarter and better off than I did beforehand. So,
Yeah.
don't give up. And if
Yeah.
you don't have, I think the key is, and if you don't have this, and you can always email me, motivational mentor 2023 at gmail.com, or make comments on this or whatever. But having a tribe around you has always gotten me through any
Mm-hmm.
of the struggles,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got to be very cautious of who you surround yourself with. I am surrounded by godly women. It's become a requirement for me if you want to be an important part of my life, because
Mm-hmm.
I need to have godly counsel and I need to have that support. Knowing that someone's giving me advice and giving me guidance in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you find that you or did or do have, a tribe around you that you can feel that same way? Like, if you go to that person for advice or guidance, they're going to give you godly advice.
Mm-hmm. I feel like yes, I do. The people around me are very limited. One of my best friends actually passed away, and her sister's actually in California. So there's not a whole lot of people that I'm surrounded,
Mm.
with. I completely rely on God, honestly. I mean, I have maybe one or two people that are here locally. So I would definitely say to everyone, find someone godly. If someone is talking bad about the other person and you should do this and don't listen, you need to remove that. Look for someone that is going to walk beside you, that is going to give you biblical reference, that is going to pray with you, be there with and for you, to listen
Yeah.
to you and not to put on you their own beliefs.
Yes.
Right?
And
That's
I
so
would say one thing
important.
to remember is if you're sitting down with one of your lady friends or your, what, and they're talking about other people, when you're not with them, they're talking about you.
Uh, yes.
So don't, those aren't good people to have around you. They're not people who are going to push you towards, service and love and all those things because they've obviously got some issues of their own. That's one thing I just won't do. I won't, if I'm sitting at a table and they're gossiping about other people, I'm not going to be sitting at that table again
Hmm.
because those are people that when I get up and go to the bathroom, they're
They're
probably talking
probably
about me.
talking about you too. Yep.
Yeah.
That is truth. There's a lot of truth.
If they'll talk about them with you, they'll talk about I don't know what the saying is, but anyway, if they're talking about other people to you, they're talking about you too. So, fill your space with people that truly love you and care about you and want the best for you.
Hmm. That's true. And if you don't have anyone, like, Heather mentioned, if you don't have anyone, or if you are, struggling, reach out, to her. If you're looking for, um, even a group to be a part of, I have a harvest group at our church for divorced women. It's called Radiant and Beautiful. And I welcome anyone. You don't have to be a believer, you don't have to attend Church of the Harvest, but that is an opportunity to fellowship with other like-minded women who are we're just on a journey to support one another. My whole goal is to create that safe environment and space that that you are still radiant and beautiful, and God is doing amazing things in your life. We do service opportunities in the community together. We will do Bible studies sometimes, but we're just there to support
I love
one
that.
another.
And the other thing is, if you don't have a tribe, if you're not surrounded by people, and the first step for you is do something for somebody else because
That's good.
it's really hard to be, feeling sorry for yourself and being at a pity party when you're showing up for somebody else. So whether that's volunteering somewhere, if it's, joining a group, even on Facebook, if that's a start, something that you're interested in, just put it in a search and see what groups come up.
Not Facebook dating, but a
No,
group.
yeah, I don't recommend. That's a whole.
That's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother episode. We're not.
That is. We don't have time
Oh
for
Lord,
that.
I refuse. I will.
Train wreck disaster.
Yes.
Don't do it.
Yes, but just anything that you can do just to get yourself, just to pull yourself out of that slump because it is rough. And I spent the last 30 days at home alone, kind of in a slump, and then I was like, you know what, that's enough. It's time to get up. And so I went out of town last weekend, and I've been on the move since. But um, you can't. There's a time and a place, and sometimes you need that downtime to. My body needed to rest so that my fight or flight could go back to normal. My nervous system needed to go back to where it belongs. And so take that time if that's what you need, but just don't settle in there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't settle in month after month after month, just on the couch watching YouTube.
Yep. No, that's not what you were created for. You were created for so much more.
Mm-hmm. So, is there anything else you want to tell the listeners or the viewers now before we wrap up? Um, is there anything that's just on your heart that you feel like somebody might need to hear?
Mm, I would just really, we had this pursue night at our church last night. And, one of the things that was ever so clear to me is that in a relationship, or outside a relationship, maybe you're not in a relationship, is that we all go through different seasons. But what's real is spiritual battles are real. They are so real, and you can't think them away. You can't, the only thing that you can do is pray and recognize that it is a spiritual battle, not place blame or try to find excuses. But sometimes it's hard to recognize what a spiritual battle looks like when you're going through,
Mhm.
things. So that's really, and especially there's this atmosphere just in our world right now just feels a little different.
It does.
I don't even, from so many different aspects, it just feels a little different. And I feel like this is really a time for, it's an equipping season. You know,
I actually was talking to my friend about that today. Of the distractions that the enemy's putting in my life
oh my gosh.
recently, and how I can focus on that, or I can focus on what must be so amazing that's coming. That
Hmm.
I was so such big distractions have been
Hmm.
placed in my path.
Yeah. Okay. So distractions, that's another podcast on itself.
Well, we'll come back with
Because
that one.
because distractions are real as well. They can be
Yeah,
confusing. They can get you off your path, and
they did.
sometimes they look like or sound like they're legit, and they're
It feels
just
so
an
good.
right. They
Oh,
look so good, right?
yep, yep. They might have big old dimples and yeah, and
Oh
but they're a
yeah,
distraction that's put
yep.
in your way so that you don't reach your potential and
Hmm.
the task that you were assigned.
Yeah.
And
So
again, that's a whole nother
beware.
episode.
Yeah,
We
beware
will.
of those distractions.
Yep.
And you know what? Dating probably while you're, single or out of a relationship is probably another
Mhm.
one as well. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have Natalie back for multiple episodes. I can already tell because
This was
we've
good.
touched on several of the topics that I have on my list to cover in 2025. So, thank you for being on
Absolutely.
my
Thank you for
podcast, and thank
having
you for coming
me.
by live so we could do it in
Yes.
person. And there's a lot of good nuggets there. So I think that we're gonna help people. So
Yeah, I think so too. It was awesome.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
See
See
ya.
you later.
Peace.